Or you can get out of my way.
For 27 years, the PlayStation brand has been the exclusive home for various different franchises, and while most of the older series aren't as much of a focus nowadays, a vast majority of the IPs that debuted on Sony's platforms have managed to reach iconic status from the moment they hit store shelves for the first time, with the likes of Crash Bandicoot, Ratchet & Clank, Uncharted, and Horizon Zero Dawn continuing to have a lasting appeal well after their debuts on their respective console generations. Heck, even Spider-Man was invited to the exclusivity party. But you know how it be, when something is popular enough, it's time to adapt it into a film or a TV show. Introducing the creation of PlayStation Originals, Sony's branding for films and TV shows based on their original IPs that was until 2019, with the recently released Ratchet & Clank Life of Pi short being the last piece of media to include this branding. And ever since the box office failure of the Ratchet & Clank movie in 2016, Sony has changed up their strategy for adapting their games to movies and TV shows. Instead of licensing out the IPs to external studios, they've decided to start handling things themselves, hence the rebrand to PlayStation Productions. Now, PlayStation Productions currently has 3 films and 7 TV shows in development. Of the currently known projects, there's next year's Uncharted movie, the Last of Us series on HBO, the Ghost of Tsushima movie, and TV shows based on Twisted Metal and Sly Cooper. Yes, I'm fully aware of the reception these types of adaptations tend to receive, but there's really no denying that they've been seeing an improvement in recent years, with Sonic the Hedgehog being a good example. So basically what I'm doing today is I'm going to take a look at 7 PlayStation franchises that I think absolutely deserve the film or TV show treatment. Will they happen, or will they wind up being good? Well, that's a matter of waiting and seeing what Sony decides to do with them. But in the meantime, let's get started with number 1, Astrobot. Everyone who's managed to get their hands on a PS5 is sure to recognize this little guy. That's because Astro's Playroom comes pre-installed on every single PS5 console, and it serves as kind of a tech demo for the PS5's DualSense controller and its many capabilities. Not only that, but the overall world of Astro's Playroom takes place inside of the many core components of the PS5 system, like the SSD, GPU, cooling system, etc. And throughout the game, you'll encounter other bots that'll make direct references to other franchises from PlayStation's extensive history, including Jak and Daxter, Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted's Nathan Drake, Ratchet & Clank, Sly Cooper, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and so many more. But since Astrobot doesn't have any spoken dialogue, and seeing as story isn't really a factor in the series, I don't think Astro would really be suited for a full-length film, or a TV show for that matter. Instead, Astro would be the perfect fit for a series of online short episodes, kinda like what Ravio did with the Angry Birds Toons shorts, which were only a few minutes in length and actually went on for what was considered 3 seasons. The reason why this approach would fit Astro so well is because I could just imagine all the hijinks that Astro and his fellow bots could get into inside of the PS5 system. Not to mention, they've got 27 years of PlayStation material to work with for each episode, making the overall package a nice treat for any PlayStation fan to enjoy. Number 2, Horizon Zero Dawn. While there is a rumor going around that a Horizon movie is in the works, the fact that Sony might even be considering such a thing would be a real no-brainer on their part, simply due to the game's massive success, selling over 10 million copies in just 2 years, with almost another million on top of that when the game came to Steam last year. So I think it's safe to say that Horizon is one of Sony's most popular IPs, and I can see why Horizon was such a success, not because it was similar to Breath of the Wild, or that both games were released a week apart from each other, but rather it's the very concept of a post-apocalyptic world where robotic animals have essentially taken over, and having the opportunity to take these things down provides a uniquely satisfying experience, one that can only be found in the Horizon franchise, as you further explore Aloy's world. But the overall package would make Horizon the perfect fit for any live-action adaptation. Sure, it might have a pretty high budget compared to adapting any other PlayStation IP, but there's no doubt in my mind that it can be a success if done right, and with it being vastly different than any other film and TV show out there, it's sure to create a lot of interest for those who have yet to play the game or its upcoming sequel, Forbidden West. Number 3. MediEvil.
It has risen again. Sir Daniel Fortescue, see?
Sir Dan might have been revived for his 2019 remake on PS4, but that hasn't necessarily stopped fans from wanting to see more of the Undead Knight, usually in the form of the second game being remade, or a completely brand new game altogether. Now, the thing about adapting MediEvil into a film or a TV show is kind of the same situation with Astrobot, primarily because Sir Dan cannot speak. Well, he can, he's just really muffled when doing so, and if you didn't have subtitles turned on, you probably wouldn't even know what he was trying to say. So, for that reason alone, I'd say MediEvil would make a better TV show than a movie, but in this case, it might be easier just to adapt the game's stories and throw in some new ones where they can, because I couldn't imagine every single season starting out with someone hundreds of years later finding Zarek's spellbook, raising an undead army, and accidentally bringing back Sir Dan in the process. That might get a bit repetitive pretty quickly, but if the second season is based on the second game, and they cap it all off with the story of the Fates Arrow comic, then that wouldn't be too big of a deal because it'd be a solid ending. Number 4. Uncharted. I know, we're already getting the movie, which is finally releasing in February, and we finally got to see the first trailer, which actually raised my hopes for how good this film might turn out. Even though it's an alternate take on how Nate and Sully first met, with some elements and moments from Uncharted 3 and 4 being sprinkled in for the longtime fans, there's the possibility that this film could exceed everyone's, including Sony's, expectations, because it could have the potential to spawn more films and or a TV show. And if such a scenario does happen, then they've got plenty of room to work with. As mentioned in Uncharted 3, Nate and Sully have been working together for 20 years after meeting in Colombia. Obviously, things are a bit different in the film, but it could still allow for so many more stories that happened before the games to be told. But in my completely honest opinion, I would really like to see a TV show focusing on an older Nathan Drake, kinda like what was done with the very well-made Uncharted fan-made film from a few years ago. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the casting decisions for the official movie is actually good. Yeah, I know, Sully doesn't have his iconic mustache from the games, but given the film takes place in its own separate timeline, kinda like Ratchet Clank 2016, I can get behind this decision. But really, it's the older Drake that we're all used to compared to his younger self, and Nathan Fillion from the short fan-made Uncharted film from a few years ago would be the perfect guy for the role if such a project was to ever happen. Number 5. Jak and Daxter.
We're getting death threats, Dax. Someone doesn't want us here.
You think? I say we take the next boat home.
Not a chance. Hang on!
When you think of PlayStation, chances are the first series that comes to mind is Jak and Daxter. Ever since the dynamic duo's debut on the PS2 back in 2001, they've become instantly recognizable icons to the PlayStation brand, spawning multiple sequels and spin-offs ever since, even crossing over with fellow PS2 mascots Sly Cooper and Ratchet and Clank. But it's worth noting that this is where Naughty Dog started to take a more edgier direction with their games, before moving on to the Uncharted series, which is why there was such a massive difference in the first game's rated E for everyone rating and the sequel's rated T for teen ratings. While Daxter and The Lost Frontier, both games not being developed by Naughty Dog, received more family-friendly E10+ ratings. But if the series had continued on this edgier, more gritty path, yeah, we probably wouldn't have liked how Jak 4 would have turned out. Thankfully, Naughty Dog dropped the project because they believed it would be doing fans a disservice, and they haven't touched the series ever since. Although, they do wish that they were still making another entry after seeing Insomniac still pushing forward with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Now, the Jak and Daxter series turns 20 years old next month, and Sony clearly doesn't have anything planned for the duo's anniversary. But, that's not to say they never tried to bring the series back in some form, as back in 2017, Rainmaker Entertainment, you know, the guys responsible for the Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper movies, they responded to a question regarding the possibility of a Jak and Daxter movie, and they confirmed that it was, keyword was, in development. But it was planned to release sometime after Sly Cooper. Well, that was until Ratchet and Clank's box office failure happened, which resulted in this film, as well as Sly Cooper, never happening. But that didn't change the fact Sly Cooper was transitioned into a TV show, which we've been waiting for ever since the announcement in 2017 and haven't heard a thing. So, if it can happen with Sly, it can happen with Jak and Daxter. Although, if a Jak and Daxter TV show were to ever happen, there would need to be a way to easily bridge the tones of the first and second games, provided the seasons are based around each game, rather than having another massive leap between seasons. Like I've mentioned a long time ago, this could be remedied by making the story of the first game slightly darker than it originally was, and lowering the edgier, grittier tone of the second game a bit. That'd be the only way I could see Jak and Daxter consistently appeal to a wider audience than if they were to stick with what we currently have, and have to redirect their focus to an older demographic with the second season. Number 6. Sly Cooper.
And I'm a thief, from a long line of thieves. In fact, thieving is the family business, and business was good.
Sly Cooper has had an adaptation in the works since 2014. Yeah, I know, we're still waiting. Technically speaking, the movie became a TV show in 2017, which we also haven't gotten any official word from Sony concerning the project. I guess this really goes to show just how much waiting the Sly Cooper fanbase has had to do over the years. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because some of you have likely been with the channel for a while, so you pretty much know how the whole situation has been going. But I'll just say this. Making Sly Cooper a TV show rather than a movie was a very smart move on Sony's part. Because not only would we have more Sly Cooper content on a regular basis, but because there's more of an opportunity to build upon Sly's world, and the chance to have more character development throughout the series. Even diving a bit more into Clockwork's background if possible, like how did he manage to convert himself into a robot way back in ancient Egypt. I mean, there's so much more they could explore with a TV show than if it were a movie. And I'm sure fans would really appreciate it when it eventually releases, considering Sly's been in Egypt for the past 9 years, with so far only rumors of a return for our favorite thief. But we'll have to see if any of those rumors will actually come to fruition. And finally, number 7, Ratchet and Clank.
I have Clank. Oh, pal.
I am fine, Ratchet. In fact, I am beginning to like my new look.
I know I started this video out by talking about the Ratchet & Clank movie being a box office failure, but I figured, why not give the duo another chance at an adaptation? Just not a movie this time around. I'm simply referring to a TV show that possibly continues the story of the movie with properly paced stories, additional characters, deeper plot points, and character development from later games in the series being featured, while also throwing in some new stories along the way. We could actually have something here. And the Life of Pi short would be a good example of said new stories. Even if the plot itself was a bit weird for a Ratchet & Clank story, and Ratchet's personality being somewhat off when compared to the movie and the main series, outside of that though, I feel stuff like this would likely be improved upon if a full series were to ever happen. But there's no question that it was loaded with fanfare for longtime fans of the series, with weapons like the Suck Cannon and the Taunter being direct callbacks to the original PS2 game that started it all just felt so good. And it really felt like Rainmaker, who are now known as Mainframe Studios, was trying to make up for some of the film's shortcomings, while at the same time also messing with Ratchet & Clank's personalities a tad bit too much, but that's besides the point. If Sony decided to have a Ratchet & Clank TV show greenlit, I feel like Mainframe would be the perfect team to handle the project, so long as they learn from Life of Pi and handle certain things a bit better. But anyways guys, those are the 7 PlayStation franchises that I think are deserving of a film or a TV show. As usual, if you have any questions, or if there's a PlayStation series that you think deserves the adaptation treatment, be sure to leave it all down in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell for more PlayStation content coming your way. And yeah, I've been Blueknight. Thank you so much for watching and for the constant support. I'll see you guys back here next time.